The story of the fifth Superman movie starring Christopher Reeve is a bit of a sad but fascinating what could have been tale. In the mid-1980s, after the disappointing reception of Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, 1987, the Superman franchise was on shaky ground. The film was a critical and commercial failure, and the production had suffered from budget constraints and poor reviews. Despite all this, the character of Superman still had a legacy, and the idea of a fifth Superman movie was discussed. Christopher Reeve had portrayed Superman in 4 films, and there was a lot of optimism around his return. At the time, Reeve was eager to continue the character's story, but he had a vision for the franchise to evolve into something more dynamic. This is where the story of the 5th movie starts to get really interesting. The concept? A new direction. The 5th Superman movie, which would have been the first one in a new direction post-Superman 4, had a different tone in mind. The movie was tentatively titled Superman V: The Man of Tomorrow, or Superman V: The New Krypton, although titles changed during pre-production. The story would have seen Superman confront new challenges, with the most significant being the return of Krypton's people. The basic plot of the film centered around Superman discovering that he wasn't the only Kryptonian left. A race of Kryptonian survivors, led by a powerful character known as the Eradicator, a key figure from the comics, was going to arrive on Earth. The Eradicator would have been portrayed as an anti-Superman figure, who had a much darker approach to saving the planet. The new Kryptonians would come to Earth with different ideas on how to reshape the world, leading to a clash with Superman's own idealism. This movie would have brought Superman face to face with the complexities of what it meant to be Earth's protector, especially when faced with a threat that had the same origins as he did. But perhaps the most ambitious part of this planned movie was the idea to bring in characters that hadn't yet been seen in the movies. One major character that was reportedly going to appear was Brainiac, a staple of the Superman comic universe, who would have been part of the battle. There were rumors that the story was going to be a mix of the Man of Steel arc with more cosmic elements that fans of the comics had long anticipated. Tim Burton's influence? There were also discussions at some point in the 90s about bringing in director Tim Burton to give the Superman series a fresh new look. Burton, who had revitalized the Batman franchise, was considered to bring his distinct visual style to the Superman saga. Some had hoped that he might have been interested in working on Superman 5, right after the success of Batman Returns in 1992. Interestingly, in the early 90s, there were even talks of a crossover between Batman and Superman, but Burton, in the end, chose to focus on his Batman franchise, leaving Superman's future in limbo. The real problem, why it wasn't made. So, if the concept for Superman V was in place, why didn't it happen? Well, there were a few factors. 1. Creative differences and budgeting issues. The biggest reason was that the production companies just couldn't get their act together. The failure of Superman 4 left the franchise in disarray, and by the time talks about Superman Feist were getting serious, the budgets were getting tighter, and the creative visions started to clash. The production studio wasn't willing to commit fully, especially after Superman 4's box office failure. Additionally, the special effects required to bring new Kryptonians and Brainiac to life would have been too costly. Number 2. Christopher Reeve's changing priorities. While Reeve was passionate about the character of Superman and was eager to continue his story, his focus had shifted. He had moved on to other projects that better aligned with his acting aspirations. Additionally, by the early 90s, Reeve became more vocal about not wanting to be typecast as Superman and wanted to focus on more diverse roles. His evolving vision for the character also conflicted with the studio's plans for the movie. 3. Superman Lives. In the 90s, the Superman franchise took another turn with the infamous Superman Lives project, which was going to star Nicolas Cage, directed by Tim Burton, with a script by Kevin Smith. The pre-production for that movie went through multiple stages, with Cage even getting into the Superman suit for test footage. Unfortunately, like the plans for Superman V's, Superman Lives never saw the light of day. What could have been? Superman V was ultimately shelved, and the story of the 5th film in the Superman franchise remained in the realm of what could have been. The film never got past the conceptual stage, and we never got to see Christopher Reeve face off against the Eradicator or Brainiac, or have the franchise continue into a more mature, evolved story. What's fascinating about this unmade movie is the potential it had for a deeper, more expansive Superman story. The idea of Superman facing Kryptonian adversaries with morally conflicting views was a direction that the movies had never really explored before. The themes of legacy, belonging, and responsibility would have been explored in a completely new way. Legacy. Even though Superman v never came to be, its impact can still be felt. The Lost movie represents a time in Superman's cinematic history when a truly unique take on the character was almost realized. It was an era of comic book movie experimentation, with Batman, Superman, and even the Shadow trying to push the envelope of what was possible in cinema. It's a reminder that sometimes the greatest stories are the ones we never see.